In this video, I want to discuss fasting when you are in a place where hormones are all over the place. You might not know for a fact you're in perimenopause. You might be on birth control or have an IUD, so you don't have a regular cycle. You might be 1 month with the cycle, 1 month without. You might know for a fact that your hormones are tanked because you've had lab work. So all of the things under the umbrella of that we are going to discuss in terms of fasting today. I know there's a lot of information out there, and what once worked for you in terms of fasting when you were younger, or maybe last year when you were in a very different place hormonally versus now. Things need to take a little bit of a turn, a little bit of a pivot in order to reap the benefits and not suffer the negative consequences. So you definitely want to look at, first and foremost, are you having a cycle? If you're not having a consistent cycle, it's going to make it a little difficult to cycle sync. But if you are able to figure out when your day one is, so even if you're not bleeding, if you can figure out that first half of your cycle, great. If you can't figure it out, then you can navigate it according to the month. And you can just basically say the first of the month is my day one. And then we're going to go till about day 15 or maybe 17. And I'm going to claim that that's my follicular phase. If you're a female with the cycle, it's a lot easier. And that is going to be the time where you're going to thrive from fasting, okay? Whether you're doing a 12-hour fast or you're doing a 24-hour fast, you will thrive from doing this. Now, I do suggest if you're doing a 24-hour fast, it's very limited. You only do maybe 1 to 2 a month. In this place, especially if you're all over the place hormonally, I would not do more than 2 times in a month, and you want to do it during that first half of the month or the first half of your cycle. Only doing it when you're feeling amazing, you slept well, you're very rested, and you feel in control enough to withstand 24 hours of a fast and not have your cortisol go sky high, okay? Because it will, when we're fasting, whether it's 16 hours or 24 or even longer, cortisol levels will increase. So that's why it's very important to know you're not already in a terrible spot with your cortisol. And if you know you have cortisol issues, fasting is not for you. 12 hours should be your max for your fast. If you know that your thyroid is really in trouble, your T3 is really low, and you've struggled, maybe you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, or you just have infertility issues, this is not something for you. Fasting 12 hours is great. It's good for gut health and somewhat detoxing from the night prior to when you break your fast, but I would not extend it any further. Now, again, that first half is going to be the time you're thriving. If you are having a cycle, day 7 and day 17 are your 2 ideal days for extended fasting. So if you are doing a 24-hour fast, these are going to be the best days to really, focus on that. But again, I don't think you should really go full throttle on the 24-hour. If you're in perimenopause, if you're in a weird place hormonally, only if you're thriving and you're feeling good in that moment. And if you do plan to do an extended fast, let's say on day 7, and day 7 rolls around and you did not sleep well at all the night prior to, and you've got a boatload of stressors on your plate and your brain, then you wake up and you say, the heck with it, I'm gonna eat. I'm going to do my body justice, and I'm going to give myself grace, and I'm gonna eat. And it's not the end of the world. You have to be in a good place to receive the fast in a good way, otherwise it's going to work in the opposite manner, and we don't want that. So again, when you are fasting, you are going to go off of how you're feeling, also looking at the month, whether it's a cycle or just the month, and making sure you're not doing too much fasting. So if you are feeling good and you're like, I'm on birth control, I feel pretty consistent, I'm going to do it, and even though Sarah says I should stop after the first 2 to 2.5 weeks, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do, 30 days of fasting. And then the next month, you do 30 more days. I would highly urge you to break it up and not do fasting every single solitary day. If you're doing 2 months straight, at that point, you gotta stop. You gotta shake it up, because I'm speaking from experience of doing extended fasting. And I don't say that meaning 24-hour fast, but I was doing a 16-8 method, sometimes 18 hours of fasting, and I did it day in and day out for month and month and month after month. And eventually I got to a place where my hormones were not healthy. And I do think that doing fasting for too long really put me in a bad place. My thyroid became fairly tanked. My cortisol has always maintained to be pretty healthy, because I do prioritize those things that I talk about. But in terms of my estrogen, my progesterone, my testosterone, tanked. And so I do think that fasting and not nourishing my body and really stressing out my body too long was a negative impact on my hormones. So just a little food for thought there. And when we're looking at what to do for the fast on those fasting days, you definitely want to make sure that you're hydrating first and foremost. And a lot of times a little sea salt in your water for electrolytes will be good. Every body is different, so you can consume anywhere from 15 calories to maybe even up to 30 calories, depending on your activity level in the morning, how much you're moving around, how slowly you're sipping on whatever it is you're drinking. But the only way to know for sure that you're in a true fast is by doing black tea, black coffee, I should say plain tea, and you can do apple cider vinegar, you can do lemon juice in your water. The apple cider vinegar will have a satiating property, so it's going to keep you feeling fuller longer. So that's helpful if you're struggling with that. But you definitely want to progress into that fast and make sure that you are not just going 0 to 100. If you've never done fasting longer than, let's say, 8 hours from the time you finish dinner to the time you break your fast in the morning, and then you think you're going to dive right into a 16-hour fast, you will be miserable. You won't be able to maintain it. You're not going to enjoy it. That is not the goal. So slowly add 30 minutes longer, 30 minutes longer, 30 minutes longer until you get to a place where you're able to go to the 16-hour. And again, you wake up in the morning, you determine if you're fasting, whether or not you slept well, how your mindset is, how you're feeling. If you wake up and you are ravenous and you are starving, you need to eat. And don't eat the cereal. Don't eat the pancakes. You can have protein pancakes, but don't eat something that's going to spike your blood sugar, because typically if you wake up and you're feeling shaky and you need food, it's probably because your blood sugar has dropped lower than what it should, and that's why you feel like you need to eat right away. And so fasting will actually help balance out those hunger hormones if done correctly. So you want to make sure that you progress into the fast. You only have what really you should be having during that fasting period. Even artificial sweetener in gum or chewing will spike your insulin slightly. So you want to make sure no artificial sweeteners. Stevia is okay. And then when you are going to break your fast, being aware that what you put in your body, the longer you're fasting, the more susceptible you are to spiking your blood sugar with the same meal. So had you only fasted, let's say, for 8 hours and then you eat a meal, versus you fasted for 24 hours and now we're eating a meal, or even 16 hours, what you put in your body is going to really be elevated in terms of your blood sugar compared to having something a couple hours after you've already had food, okay? So just remember that. You don't want to just go all in and say, okay, well, I've been fasting all day and I'm going to go out and have some pizza and beer with my friends, because then, and then it's going to drop and then you're going to feel like a pile of poo. So hopefully that was helpful. Always listen to your body. If you're in a hormonal place where it's not a good situation right now, I would say just sprinkling in those fasts is okay. I personally only do 12 hours, and it's very infrequent if I do a 16-hour fast, because I'm just very aware of where my hormones are at in this moment. But that's not to say things can't change in the future. See you in the next video.